Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caravan of Garbage, where we're kicking off a new series.
Oh, kicking.
Very good. That I said that.
Well, accidentally.
It's still very good.
I think you say kicking off every time also.
Yeah, but this time I really mean it.
Oh!
Because we're looking at the two kick-ass movies, aren't we?
You nearly said it again.
Shut up.
You nearly said it again.
Hey, shut up, all right?
Yeah. That's right. And just so you know, we call them kick-ass in Australia.
That's right.
And that's how we're going to refer to them.
Yeah.
Unless we switch midway through.
Which we might.
Switch back.
Yeah. Please leave a like for whatever way we be doing it.
That's right. So this is from the twisted minds of Mark Millar and John Romita Jr. and the twisted mind of Matthew Vaughn. But I want to make it clear.
It's too many twisted minds.
No, see, the thing is, I want to make it clear that everything they've done here is normal to me. Because my mind is more twisted than theirs.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you even function day to day? How do you hold a regular conversation?
I'm just bored all the time. Just so bored.
Because you're thinking about, I don't know, bats and ghouls?
Yeah, ghouls, goop.
Yep.
You know?
Rotting eggs.
Running with scissors.
Oh, wow.
You know, you
God.
can't even comprehend it.
You're a maniac.
You're already recoiling with fear.
Yeah.
But to me, that's all
No,
normal.
it's normal, isn't it,
it's
for you?
normal.
Yeah.
A dead bird.
Is that a dead bird?
Oh, no.
Normal.
Well, speaking of normal, this was in an era of, what if superheroes were real? And we had a bit of that prior with, like, Mystery Men, I guess, which was more like the corporatization of superheroes. And obviously we've got that with The Boys now. It's more common. But this is like, what if superheroes were not real, but then they become real, but they're just people?
Yes.
Yeah.
They'd have a bad time. Everyone would have a bad time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone's making a terrible mistake here.
There's a lot of homages to various superhero characters and even real life people. That guy you see at the start in the bird costume who jumps off the building and dies, I think that's a homage to that French guy who tried to fly off the Eiffel Tower and died immediately, just plummeted like a rock.
I laugh, but that's sad.
Yeah.
He had some issues, clearly.
Yeah, we can't show all of that footage, but it just looked like a man wrapped in paper bags.
But we can show footage from Melbourne's own Birdman rally.
Oh my God.
Where a bunch of men attempted, and it's always men, and they attempt to build assorted flying machines to fly across the Yarra River, and nobody makes it more than about a foot.
No.
Various letting gravity take its natural course machines.
So, a bit of background on this movie.
All right.
It's the second live-action adaptation of Mark Millar's work. The first being Wanted, which is very different than the source material.
Yeah, that's right, and that's very loosely based, isn't it?
Yeah.
I attribute a lot of Mark Millar's success in Hollywood. He gets a lot of stuff greenlit.
Yeah.
I think he's got some great premises and ideas, but also I suspect they say, hey, we're going to change a bunch of stuff, and he's like, yeah, that's fine.
Pretty much. I
It's
saw
completely
a
fine.
bunch of interviews, and he's just like, the original comic still exists, and you give me a lot of money to,
That's right.
you know,
Come up with more premises
Yeah.
to be turned into movies.
which I'll do. So Mark Millar met Matthew Vaughn at the premiere of Stardust, and he pitched the idea because Matthew Vaughn wanted to do American Jesus, which later got adapted into a Netflix series. So at that point, he'd only done 3 scripts for the comic, none of the art at that point.
Okay.
And Matthew Vaughn was like, you know what? Yep, I'm going to pivot to this. So what they started doing was developing them in tandem.
I see, yeah.
And they do deviate if you've ever read
They
it.
do. We'll probably talk about that later, but
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are some differences. I think one of the differences is this is certainly, I wouldn't call it family friendly, but it is certainly, it's less mean, I think.
It's less mean than Super.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a movie I enjoy, but,
Yeah,
but it's very grim.
It's less mean. It does. This movie obviously came out in 2010. It does have some edginess that perhaps hasn't aged as well as it could have.
It's got a bunch of 2010 stuff that hasn't aged well. MySpace, Paris Hilton references, flip phone selfies.
They don't have selfie cameras on their phones. Can you even imagine it?
Craig Ferguson, can you even imagine it?
I can imagine that. He's delightful.
Yeah.
The 3 amigos, Dave and his 2 friends.
Yep.
They hang out in a
2 Quicksilvers! Mason, 2 Quicksilvers!
Aye!
Marvel Cinematic Universe, Fox X-Men Universe, and also WandaVision, 2 Quicksilvers!
And there's another guy.
Yeah, Clark Gregg or Greg Clark, whatever his name is. But that's not his name. Neither of those things are his name.
His name is...
He's from Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yes.
And later seasons of The Office.
His
Duke?
name's Clark Duke. It's Clark Duke. You were so close.
Yeah.
There he is.
God, good stuff.
Anyway, they hang out at a little comic book store / cafe called Atomic Comics, and it's proudly emblazoned with its website, www.atomiccomics.com. Still exists.
Great.
It's parked by a comic book company promoting adult comics. I don't think in that sense, but just like mature, not in that sense, but like just like comics for grown-ups, and it's promising a bunch of titles coming soon, and their last Instagram post was in 2020.
Okay, great.
So looking forward to that.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
What happened in 2020? I wonder why they stopped. It's not important. I'm sure they're just stockpiling comics.
They're probably stockpiling titles, yeah?
Yeah.
They're probably hand drawing each one. Each one is its own little work of art. But anyway, these three amigos, they're rapping, James.
Yeah.
They're rapping about superheroes and what they'd be like in real life. And Dave, played by Aaron Johnson,
Quicksilver.
yes, he's like, I'm going to give it a whirl. And you know what? I think at this point, Aaron Johnson, pre-Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's got that lanky vibe down, like that spindly look that Kick-Ass does have in the comics. I think that worked really well.
Absolutely. A geek, a nerd, a nobody.
Hideous.
Yeah, gross.
Yuck.
Do you know this was also rejected by every studio that they approached? They were like, get rid of the little girl who's a murderer and murders everybody. And, yeah.
But that's Big Daddy. Look. I like the premise. I think this.
Oh, you endorse all the things that these characters do you, Mason?
Yeah, because it's normal stuff to me. It's normal, boring stuff. It's like a trip down to the shops to me, is what it is. But I think this movie carries this adaptation off very well. But I mean, what is this movie without Big Daddy and Hit Girl?
Absolutely.
Really? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're the juice.
They're the juice.
Yeah, exactly. So Matthew Vaughn ended up raising the money at a dinner party and had it made independently.
Wow.
He's got a lot of rich friends. He's worked with like Guy Ritchie and stuff. He worked on like Lock, Stock and various other projects.
Oh, Ritchie by name, Guy Ritchie by nature.
Not wrong. You did Aladdin. Would have made the big bucks for that one.
That's right.
He
Married Madonna. She's got that like a virgin money.
Oh, yeah. He, of course, did Before This Layer Cake as well with
That's
Daniel
right.
Craig.
And we get some Guy Ritchie stalwarts in this. We get a little Dexter Fletcher cameo.
my
We get a little
God.
Jason Fleming cameo.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Love seeing that. Yeah. So after they shopped it around after they'd made it, they ended up selling it to Universal for more than what they were asking for. And Universal were like, oh, actually, we like this thing that you've done. We like the Hit Girl thing. More of that, please.
Interesting.
He's like,
Okay.
I knew what I was doing. I had a twisted mind. Well, you don't think so,
That's
but
got a normal mind.
they thought he had
Makes
a
a lot
twisted
of
mind.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I think this walks the line really well on? The fights are very kind of brutal and comic book-esque, but it's also like, oh, you got stabbed because you tried to attack two men.
Well, it's interesting because I think this movie starts out with a kind of grounded look towards fighting and superheroes and all that sort of stuff in the sense of like, yeah, if you did try and fight two guys, they would simply beat you up. Skills or no skills.
Yeah.
There's two big guys.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, the movie's connection to reality sort of...
It ebbs and flows.
It ebbs and flows. And by the end, there's jetpacks and machine guns and...
Well, to spoil some of the comics, I guess, it ends up in the Kick-Ass universe because it all gets combined with like Nemesis and Chrononauts and Wanted. They all become one big Millarverse situation.
Yes.
Dave ends up getting real superpowers.
It's true, yeah.
He kind of gets rewarded, and anyway, he flies off into the sun or something at the end. You know what else I was thinking watching this? You know that the big fight that he gets into with all the thugs and it gets filmed and it goes viral. I don't think that would go viral now. I think that would maybe go to the top of like a Reddit fight page and it would just be hundreds of comments being like, no, that's not, I wouldn't have done it like that.
This is fake. This is an ad for something. This is an ad for vitamins or something. I mean, if he wanted to go viral, he should have done a makeup tutorial.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
That's what it gets the big views these days.
I mean, that's what Nicolas Cage did in this movie.
He did, it's true. Yeah. Inspired casting, I think.
Oh my,
I don't know if he sought this out or they tracked him down.
Mark Millar imagined like the cadence of the character as kind of a Nick Cage-esque dude.
Which also happens to be an Adam West style dude.
Well, that was Nick Cage's addition to it.
Yes.
So they didn't say, can you do this Adam West thing? He took that on.
I think that 100% works.
Yeah, absolutely. The costume also for him in the comic is very different. It's kind of like a bandana and a coat. And this it's basically Batman. It's Batman without stepping on any trademarks.
Yes, it's Adam West Batman mannerisms and like a Christian Bale like brutality, which is interesting.
But with guns.
With guns. I wish I loved the costumes in this more. Like
is that the point though that they're kind of shitty?
Yeah, no, I guess, yeah, but I mean, maybe it's the marketing genius within me, James.
Sure.
That wears his.
God,
logo.
you got a lot of wolves in you, don't you?
You better believe I do.
You got two wolves within you. One who's incredibly twisted and one who's a marketing genius. That's
exactly right. Well, I named this, didn't I? Does all right. He needs a logo. He needs something.
Yeah.
You know? Just the B-Day on his belt's not enough.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah. Look, I do love his performance. I think he's great. I love that part of his disguise is putting on a longer handlebar mustache. Like, I love all of that. I don't love that they changed his backstory from the comic.
Yeah, so in this movie, he has kind of a more cliched superhero origin story, as would befit somebody in a comic book.
Yeah.
That he was a police officer, and he was one of the best. He's one of the good ones, and then he gets framed for drug dealing, and he gets put in prison, and when he does, his wife dies but gives birth to a little girl, and when he comes out of prison, he decides he's going to get revenge on the bad guys and train his daughter to be a vigilante killer. But in the comic books, he's also a lunatic.
Yeah.
But in this case, he's just a lunatic who wanted to give his daughter an exciting life, so he's like, I'll train her as a killer.
He's an accountant, and he basically takes his daughter away from his wife, unbeknownst to her.
Yeah.
And the way they are able to afford everything is because he's selling vintage comic books to buy weaponry and safe houses and all of that. And similarly to the movie, he does get executed at the end. But no, I think that more leans you to how much of a lunatic this guy is. I think it's a more interesting backstory.
The comic book version.
Yes,
I
for
agree.
this particular thing.
Yeah.
And speaking of Hit Girl, look, I understand the criticisms of the time, right? It's like, well, this little girl, she's swearing and doing karate and tearing people's throats out or whatever.
But it's not real. It's
Well,
acting.
exactly. It's an intentionally awful thing to do to a child.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a stirring endorsement.
Right.
Like, it doesn't end well, really, for anybody. She survives, but barely, and her dad is killed, and she's, like, ruined for life.
Yes.
Yeah. And apparently also the way that she is in a lot of, well, less of the psychopathic stuff is based on Mark Millar's own daughter, who was around that age that this was released.
Huh.
More of the fun elements than the crazier stuff, Mason.
It was fun.
Yeah. I really like this era of Matthew Vaughn action, and I would say up to, like, the first Kingsman, between, like, this and up through X-Men.
Also a Mark Millar comic book that was adapted.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And made some changes, which I think were for the better.
Yeah, I think the movie is better than the comic.
Colin Firth, for example.
Colin Firth, yeah. We're talking about another time, Mason. But yeah, like, the moment where they transition from that Teddy cam and into the fight scene of Big Daddy, like, storming, you know, the warehouse, the corridor fight at the end, all of that is just wonderful. I wish he'd kind of go back to that, because seeing Argyle more recently, like, it's, yeah.
More recently than when you saw it in cinemas. Have you seen it again?
I haven't seen it again. I'm saying, whatever. I saw Argyle. I didn't like it very much.
Once was
Mason.
enough. Once was enough.
I also think the jetpack is slightly too far for
That's
what
what I'm
this is.
saying. That's what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah. It ramps up maybe just that little bit too much for me.
Yeah, because in the comic books, Kick-Ass and Hit Girl's last stand is just them going into the building and killing everybody with a flamethrower, and Hit Girl's on cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
You should check it out. Yeah. Anyways, you know what it's time for then?
What's it time for?
Kick Trivia!
Love it.
Yeah. Daniel Craig and Mark Wahlberg were considered for the role of Big Daddy before Nicolas Cage was cast.
I don't like either of those. I like one of them as a person,
Yeah.
but not for this role.
Didn't you say that you find Mark Wahlberg loathsome?
I did say
Don't
that,
you
yes.
keep saying that?
I do say that.
You said
And I
a lot.
And I stand by it, yes.
It was also reported via THR that Brad Pitt was going to take on that role, but then he ended up doing Inglourious Bastards. I don't like that either.
None of those work. I think
Nah.
Nicolas Cage was perfectly cast for this.
Completely agree.
He should call himself Ass Kick instead.
The name of the lead character, Dave Lizewski, was chosen at a charity auction run by Kick-Ass co-creator and writer Mark Millar prior to the publication of the first issue of the book. The auction winner chose to use his own name.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you would, wouldn't you? Oh, this is great, Mason. The music during the scene with the strobe lighting is Adagio in D minor by John Murphy. Do you know what this is from, Mason?
What's it from?
It's from the movie Sunshine, which is everybody's favorite movie.
Oh.
It is changed for this. There are some elements that have been changed.
Edgier?
I guess so. But it's
Probably
a wonderful piece of music.
You know what? Here's a little piece of trivia.
Oh yeah.
And it really proves that this
Kick trivia!
it really proves that this movie is set in an alternate universe.
Yeah.
At the start of the movie, our three amigos are leaving a cinema which is showing The Spirit 3. Can you imagine that
Oh,
world?
no, I can't,
certainly
actually. That doesn't
can't.
make any
That's
sense.
insane, honestly.
Did they make the Spirit 1 and 2 in this universe? They couldn't have. Surely they just
jumped
ahead.
They jumped ahead. Maybe that's the crazy universe we live in.
Oh, that's even too twisted for your mind, maybe.
It's getting up there. It's still normal.
Great. Now, the box office for this, on a budget of $30 million, it made 96.2, which is also incredible because it is an R-rated comic book movie. Mm-hmm. And also, it wasn't a big brand. This is also the second most pirated film of 2010 with 11.4 million downloads on BitTorrent. That's ahead of Inception, which was number 3. Avatar, of course, was number 1. But I think that speaks to how popular this movie was and obviously why it did get a sequel a few years later.
Yeah.
A different director.
Yeah, and a couple of cast changes.
Couple of cast changes, yeah, which we'll talk about next week. I haven't seen that movie, I think, since cinemas.
Same.
So it's going to be very interesting to come back and for you to hate it like you did then.
I did hate it then, but I can't remember why I hated it. This one, vibrant, fun, liked it.
Like it a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And also next week, we're going to be talking about how Kick-Ass 3 potentially.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah. But look,
sense.
if you do want to see that early, you can actually head over to bigsandwich.co. Do you know why?
Why?
Well, because there's early videos like these ones. There's bonus podcasts.
Oh, yes.
We do movie commentaries.
Wow.
Aren't there so many video game Let's Plays also that are also exclusive?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, yeah. Also, we have a podcast called The Weekly Planet where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out every Monday, Sunday at bigsandwich.co. But that's on YouTube. It's got its own Spotify.
It's all over the place.
It's got its own Apple.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's probably playing on whatever app you're currently using.
Yeah.
Spreadsheet.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on there.
It's on there. Ski Free. It's in the background.
That's right. It's the thing that's chasing you. It's ski free. It's gonna get you. Our podcast.
Is Lawrence old enough to know what that is, or do I have to specifically message him and explain?
He knows what Google is.
No, I mean this. Yeah, but the Ski Free thing at the end because he'd have to play Ski Free.
It's true.
It's not an in PC purchase anymore.
That's a great point.
He'd have to play it in browser and then collect footage or what. I don't know how he does things. Anyway, I guess we're out here, aren't we?
That's right.
Okay, goodbye.
Grab that Jemmy, guys. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.